Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, here on our Miami channel with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And of course, if you don't know this already, that's your source for Miami football coverage. You can go all over the place, but certainly make State of the U one of your stops. Cam, if you can give us a brief description before you dive into the news of the day with what you have available there right now. And thanks for joining, as always, of course.
Yeah, no problem. There's a lot of stuff going on. We have bowl prep stuff, so we have that story stream pinned on the front page. We also have all of our /my, because the other recruiting writers no longer write for us, but all of my recruiting coverage for early signing period and National Signing Day, that's on the front, and all the individual pieces for those things. There's basketball coverage there. There's individual notebooks for most of the signees. Again, I'm still working my way through the last couple just because I got put behind a little bit because I was in accident on I-95. I'm fine, but it just took the time that I was going to finish some of those things. So I have that, or we have that up there, and even more. Like, I'm sure that actually, I think that a couple guys wrote a couple different things about the bowl game and about recruiting commentary. Actually, no, I just thought, somebody did post something else that's really cool about how Miami can maybe recruit a little bit better in a different kind of way. So go check that out. So that's a tease for you. But yeah, we have a lot of great content on stateoftheu.com all the time. So, please go over there and, read, comment out there. We do like to interact with you guys. And, this is just another way to do that. So yeah, always a lot of great stuff across most sports there at State of the U. So come check it out.
Right, Cam, we'll cut straight to the chase. I wanted to line up Cam with a number of comments that came in yesterday. We did a live stream, so please check it out at Mark Rogers TV and check out the comments there and the live chat as well. So since it was a live chat, we received hundreds of comments there live, but only 11 because it posted. And if you know anything about YouTube, the live streams don't do well once they post, but I wanted that immediate engagement with the audience. Did get a comment here from Tony Kidd, who makes this, meaning the low ranking of the recruiting class, a fireable offense. So I guess we're going cutthroat straight out of the gate. I don't know that any coach has been, can't imagine, not fired for the results on the field, but the results of the recruiting class. So that's a bit extreme, but I would think that the administration would have very strict criteria in regards to results this season that they would like to see accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be accountability for the on-field and off-field, failings of this team and this program right now. So the fireable offense line is a thing that I've been saying about some things that have been going on around this program for a while. And I know that I've been lambasted for that by, our fan base, even those who strongly support State of the U and my commentary and things like that, or other factions of the fan base. But I mean, there have been multiple fireable offenses by Mark Richt and company, and this is a fireable offense. Like I mean, a recruiting class of this rank, of this ilk, will set the program back for years by missing out on actual Miami caliber talent. And then you have to have scholarship numbers. You have to have bodies. So now you're going to reach for guys who shouldn't be at Miami, or, should be maybe low on the depth chart piece, who, they play during a 77-0 blowout against Savannah State, but now they're clocking major integral snaps against Florida State, Virginia Tech, Florida, whoever it would be. So yeah, that's bad. It's definitely bad. And I saw somebody gave me a comment on Twitter yesterday that the 2017 and 18 classes were talented enough to cover for the failings of the 2019 class, to which I disagree. Obviously, I mean, if those classes were so good, and they were very talented, to be sure, but the results have not matched that level of acclaim as recruits. So now you lose a DJ Johnson, 4-star high school All-American, who transferred after his freshman year last year. Now he's at Oregon. He's going to play next year as a redshirt sophomore. You lose Amon Richards to a career-ending injury. I know he was a 2016 recruit, but you get my point. Jeff Thomas was a 2017 recruit. He's looking like an All-American, averaging almost 30 yards a catch in the first 4 games. Then you don't know how to get him the ball, switch quarterbacks, and then he leaves. So now all this talent that you're talking about, there's been attrition of that talent even. So on paper, if everybody who had signed in these last couple of classes was there and everybody was playing to their potential, then yes. You even have 4-star guys who haven't seen the field. Kylian Herbert was a 4-star All-American out of American Heritage down here. He was the one kid that we got from American Heritage 2 years ago. That's the year of Pat Surtain not coming here, of Tyson Campbell not coming here. You miss on all those other guys, but you get him and you think, okay, maybe he's going to be the left tackle of the future. He's not played any kind of meaningful snap. So I disagree with that. So when you bring in this talent and it doesn't meet estimation, you cannot then all of a sudden bring in less talent and think things are going to be better. Miami has been good in recent years, or even in this year. A lot of things that happened were because Miami was more talented than the other team, not because they executed better really, or Miami does not out-scheme you, especially on offense. But on defense, yeah, they'll out-scheme you a little bit, but on offense, that's not going to happen. So you really rely on isolations, just like it's basketball. One-on-one, you win that battle, you put that ball there, and then that's how it is. But if you have the more talented person, the more talented player, you are able to do that. I don't see that continuing, because now by having a recruiting class of this ilk, you're bringing the advantage of talent that you once had down. So you're coming back to the pack, as it were. So to get to the comment, is it fireable? I believe so. Is it fireable today? No. Will it prove itself to be a foundational reason for firing at the end of 19 or sometime in the near future? Yes. So I agree conditionally. I do believe that the failings of this recruiting class, especially this early signing, there was no person who was – there was one, and I got to talk about him in a second. So just remind me, because we had another kid sign, so I got to do that. But there was one kid, who was not committed to Miami, who Miami won a battle for and got him away from another team. Any other kid that Miami was chasing who was not already committed to Miami went elsewhere. And that's not even talking about guys who either recently decommitted or might not go or might not come to Miami, or other guys who have not yet announced, but all signs point to them going somewhere other than Miami. The tangible results were there was no positive result. It was zero. It was a goose egg. And that's bad. And we can run down the names. Evan Neal, left tackle, gone. Lloyd Summerall, Keon Zipperer from Lakeland, gone. Who else? I don't even remember. But Jaden Hazelwood, probably gone. Tyreek Stevenson, probably gone. RJ McIntosh's brother, Kenny McIntosh, but he already previously committed to Georgia, gone. Everywhere you look, it was losses for Miami. And Andrew Ivins from 247 Sports wrote this. He said, Miami has not won a head-to-head battle since September. And that was for Jason Blissett out of New York City. Anytime that there's been a question in recruiting, that question has been answered with a team other than Miami. And I agree with the statement. Again, it might not be fireable today on December the 20th, 2018, but a result like this, that lack of talent on the roster, the deterioration of that talent advantage moving forward, that could prove itself to be fatal for the on-field results and absolutely fireable.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, talking Miami football in the midst of, not the conclusion of, a recruiting class here in 2019 that ranks in the high 30s to low 40s, depending on your recruiting service. So if I'm interpreting the fireable offense argument, you would not march into the head coach's office to say, your recruiting class is ranked 45th in the country. That's not up to Miami standards. You're gone. But what would be the fruition of a class most likely ranked 45th in the nation is not up to Miami standards and competing for championships.
Yeah,
therefore,
exactly.
It's going to play out.
Right. It's going to play out because the results are going to continue to be, 8-4, 7-5. And then you've already seen mass decommits in the 2020 class, which for the last 8 years, even from when Al Golden was coach, Miami has always had the next class has been ranked number one early, like every year. It's almost like when Mac Brown was at Texas and their recruiting class was done at junior day before those kids were even seniors, and everybody went to Texas because it was Texas, it was the logo, hook 'em horns, all that. except for at the beginning of Mack Brown's tenure, all those kids stayed, all those kids played, and they did well. They won a championship, all that. And then it kind of petered off when, the results kind of, you're not recruiting great quarterbacks at quarterback, recruiting them at safety, and you miss on some guys and things like that. So then those early commits still happen, but then they defect, they go elsewhere. That has been the case for Miami for years. I mean, every class for, just off the top of my head, going back to at least 2012, every class, the next year's class has been ranked number one. Same thing in 2020. Now, Manny Diaz leaves, you go to Temple to be the head coach. You have a bunch of guys already in that class committed on defense. They all decommit. Even some 2021 guys, they decided they want to decommit because they want to play for Manny Diaz's defense. So if you're spinning that forward, I get where the optimism of next year as a sports fan is always there. Because, this year didn't meet, muster, but next year is going to be great on the field, off the field, recruiting and things like that. We've already seen tangible results on the recruiting trail for 2020 and 21 that are negative. So, yeah, again, I don't think that today's result is necessarily fireable. But number one, it is very poor. It is quite poor. And number two, there are systemic issues that are being brought to light because you wouldn't have results like this unless there were systemic issues.
Okay, guys, I'm monitoring the live chat. So as soon as somebody has a question or a comment that is anything above just the standard comment of the recruiting class is bad, what are we going to do? I will pass that along to Cam. Also, keep in mind that we started at roughly 12:35, so about 15 minutes ago. So as soon as this process is in post, after the conversation, go back and listen to what you missed from Cam's approach or his response to National Signing Day yesterday. And it's a 3-day process, if I'm not mistaken, here in December. And then, of course, that Wednesday, the first one of February. So I've got a number of questions. One would be, well, let's clean up the signing that you wanted to hit upon. Let's do that first.
Yeah, so before we go forward, and yes, you are correct that it is a 3-day early signing period now, and then the first Wednesday in February begins the spring signing period, the traditional National Signing Day, and then there's actually like a month period where kids can sign after that, but obviously, National Signing Day, that Wednesday is the holiday for recruiting fans, if you will. To spin forward, or to go back a little bit, I should say, Miami did have a 13th offensive or player who committed and signed right now at the early signing period. His name is Adam El Gamal. He is an offensive tackle from Christ the King Regional in Middle Village, New York. He's 6'5", 275 pounds, was a former basketball player at Christ the King. Obviously, New York being a hoop state, or hoop city, city and state, really. But, he was a hooper out there, but he gave that up to play football, which is a smart decision, I think, for him because he's more suited towards that. And there have been many, many people who, fit that mold. RJ McIntosh was a basketball player in high school. Yadni Kajust, if you know him, he was a left tackle for the last 3 or 4 years at West Virginia. He was a high school basketball player until the coach at his school finally convinced him to come out for football, and then he got a scholarship and was a starting left tackle in the Big 12 for years. So yeah, Adam El Gamal has that kind of build and ability. He definitely has a big upside. He's definitely an athletic kid, but he is the third offensive lineman in the class for 2019. I would say he's probably the first one who might see the field, with Ja'Kai Clark definitely being behind some guys on the interior offensive line at center, and Zion Nelson, the other signee, being another basketball player. But I mean, I weigh more than him right now, honestly. He's 6'5", 240 pounds, and to play tackle in the ACC, you cannot be 240 pounds. If you want to be a tight end, if you want to be a defensive end, you could probably get away with that, but need to add some weight. But at offensive tackle, and he played left tackle in high school at Sumter, South Carolina. So to do that, yeah, you definitely got to add weight and size. So, I mean, like I said yesterday, Nelson is probably 3 years away from being a player here. Ja'Kai Clark, a couple years, and Adam El Gamal is probably a couple years away also. He's not going to come in and play probably as a freshman, maybe get a couple rotational snaps as a redshirt freshman, but that hasn't even been the case with other higher rated, more talented guys like, Cleveland Reed, like a John Campbell, like a Kyleon Herbert, who I already mentioned. So, but in any way that you slice it, getting another offensive lineman is big for Miami. We need bodies up there, and Adam El Gamal does have potential for the future development. So getting him to not just sign, but then announce, because he wanted to wait for a little bit to announce it. So obviously Miami could not do that until they had his wishes to put it out there, and they couldn't comment about him by name until he's actually signed, because that's a violation to do that. So but Adam El-Gamal is in the class as well. We're chasing his teammate Jared Harrison Hunt, who's a defensive tackle, also from Christ the King, obviously being a teammate with El-Gamal. I think Harrison Hunt's probably going to go to Penn State though, so that's another whiff, if you will, but not as long tenured in the recruitment as some people like Evan Neal, who have been recruiting for 3 or 4 years, who's a Miami legacy, because I believe he's Cleveland Gary's cousin or something. Cleveland Gary, with the famous not fumble at Notre Dame in 1988, was, family member of Evan Neal. So like you've been familial connection, a long time recruiting connection. If Miami misses on Jared Harrison Hunt, it is a miss. I'm not trying to dispute that or mitigate that, but it's not as long tenured or impactful as somebody like Evan Neal. But in any case, Adam El-Gamal is also in the class. The class is up to 13 total signees, which is not enough. But yeah, I guess we can talk about numbers later. But yeah, that was the signing of the day.
Fred Langston commenting, and Cam, I don't know if this was, I know that this was not your intent, but Cam is funny as hell. He looked like he wanted to break his laptop. I feel your pain, brother. Dark days ahead for us at the U.
I fancy myself to be funny. I like in situations, when I kind of go off the cuff, I can be hilarious. I'm not going to break my laptop. I paid a lot of money for it, boy, previously. But I'm very frustrated. I am not pleased. I think that there are major issues. And I have been looking for and trying to think of solutions, and I just don't see any right now. So other than blind hope and to say that things are going to be different. So I don't know if that's it, but I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad that you enjoy my high level of hilarity, because I'm hilarious.
Cam, don't you think that some of this fallout, not just in this situation, but in situations like it, can be tied to social media? So if you take somebody like a Jaron Williams who makes a decision to transfer,
potentially,
I'm sorry,
reportedly,
and I don't even need to go with that specific situation. A number of guys decommitted, a number of guys chose another program. So in this situation, 15 years ago, a player, a student athlete, knew what they were being told by the coaching staff, the position coach and the head coach that were recruiting them. And then they had a network of people, either extensive or not, to give them some background as to maybe some things that were going on that they should understand about what they were getting into, or whether this coach was believable, all those things. And now on social media, these kids can scroll all over the place, and whether true or not, factual or not, valid or not, they can be presented with a lot of situations or skepticism about that calls into question the
everything
capabilities of the coaching staff, the administrator, all that. And some of it's valid, some of it's not, some of it's valid, and then they can draw their own conclusions, but they're presented with ideas or storylines that they can believe or not believe.
Right. And they can be. I know that, some people are more active on social media than others, even as recruits. DJ Dallas famously, he was the ambassador for Miami's 2016 recruiting class. 17 recruiting class, and was always on Twitter, and he's seeing everything that every recruit is posting, and he's, commenting back to fans who are saying things about, him and about the Hurricanes and things like that. And then there are other people who, aren't. So is it possible that social media has an impact? Like, social media has an impact on life. It's a thing that people look at, it's a thing that people do, it's a thing that people interact with. So I'm not going to say that people don't interact with it and recruits don't see it, but I don't think that it is like the foundation for any recruit movement. I don't think that, any one of us, well, I won't even say me, because I'm not necessarily a regular fan. I'm a pseudo kind of sort of journalist. I run a website, I'm a semi-pro at that, if you will. So I don't really, and I have more visibility than like Joe Schmo. But if Joe Schmo from Southridge were to tweet somebody and be like, oh yeah, whatever, that kid might see that. But I don't think that they're making a life decision based upon Joe Schmo from Southridge, or, you know, Jose from Hialeah, or Fred in Fort Lauderdale, or Brian in Boca. Like, I don't think that they're doing any of those things. So could they see that? Do they see the blowback? I'm sure that they do. I'm sure that they see, or they felt the negative energy through a 4-game losing streak, you know, a 7-5 season. It's not all roses and sunshine. And I mean, things aren't going to be like that when you lose games the way that Miami did and have the amount of losses in a season that Miami's been building toward and said that they've been building toward for many years. So again, social media is a thing that I think that the impact is maybe overstated, and by those of us who live on social media and like do a lot of interaction with social media. But these kids largely make their own choices, and, you know, they, you know, hang out with each other and they do things. So, you know, like that a normal kid would do. So do they sometimes see some of this stuff? Yes. Is that the foundation for their decision to go to any school or not to go to any school? No.
So when I say social media, I'm not just talking about the Joe Blow guy out there that has 3 subscribers on YouTube. I'm talking about people like yourself, because if it's 1985, you watch your local news, you get the very cut and dry, very conservative analysis of the football team, and you get the news. Now you get the backstory that, again, may be true or not true, factual or not, valid or not, but a lot of people that have audiences that can fill in and call into question. Look at, you know, you wouldn't have in 1985 plain spoken people out there just calling what it is and just saying,
and I mean, but
these decisions are crazy. What's going on?
Right, but that's if they choose to consume that, if they follow, if they see that, if it's put past their purview. You know, like, there's a great number of things that happen on social media, and even with my State of the U account having 28,000 followers and having, you know, 35,000 aggregate followers between 2 accounts, and seeing a lot of retweets and following people of my, you know, on both accounts and seeing things that get retweeted and put out there is a wealth of things that are on social media about the Miami Hurricanes or about other things that I'm interested in that I don't even see. So could it get there? And like, is like, you know, a blog atmosphere where there are more people who are able to have opinions and put them out freely? Is that giving more of that than like your normal, you know, Channel 4 news back, you know, when we were kids? Yes. But I mean, every recruit doesn't see that, and every content creator, every person with a website doesn't see it, because I'm sure that there are other websites out there that are doing things that I've never seen. So could it be a thing? Yes. But I think it's just maybe just noting the presence thereof, but I don't necessarily know that the presence of that commentary and analysis is the foundation for any recruit doing or making any tangible decision.
Considering the quarterback situations that we see at high-level programs across the country where the competition for the starting spot is fierce, therefore we see the fallout where guys are transferring all over the place. And we're not talking about broken situations. We're just talking about, hey, I see a guy that has been given the job. He's not doing anything to lose it. I'm looking out for my future playing time that's going to lead hopefully to an NFL contract. I got to get on this and I got to find a place. Jaron Williams seems to have had a position there in Miami where he would be in a very favorable spot to compete for the job. So that's why I find that transfer potentially, if he makes the decision, I've got to backtrack, alarming.
Yeah, no, but I mean, there were always quarterback transfers as far back as you want to go. I mean, Troy Aikman was at Oklahoma and wasn't going to play until he went to UCLA, and that's, you know, where he became Troy Aikman and da-da-da. So, like, I mean, and that's just one thing from the past. There have been quarterback transfers as long as it's been football, because you can only play one quarterback. It's different than other positions where you're going to have 5 offensive linemen, you're going to rotate 3 running backs, play 7 wide receivers, 4 tight ends. Those positions are different than quarterback, because quarterback is like a singular position. But yeah, if, you know, and again, there was a 247 Sports report by Steve Wiltfong that according to his sources, Jaron Williams is going to transfer. And yeah, that ends up being problematic. That is alarming, because, you know, then you have N'Kosi Perry and no net. Behind him, you have Cade Weldon, who, like, you know, sure, is the son of a former Heisman Trophy runner-up at Florida State. Casey Weldon is his father. But, I mean, Cade isn't as good as Casey, and he's not as good as N'Kosi. So, like, I mean, maybe play some rotation snaps, but, I mean, he's a fine dude. He can maybe be like that 5th year quarterback, of like, 3 years down the line as a fifth-year senior, he plays that year before leaving or something like that, but he's not going to really play now. And then Miami would only have those two quarterbacks on the roster because, again, there's no quarterback in this recruiting class, which is recruiting rule number one, because you have to have a plan for the future, like I've been saying. So, yeah, I mean, if Jarren Williams comes through and actually transfers, then, yeah, that's a problem for Miami because it takes away one of the most talented players at the position. And obviously, between him and N'Kosi Perry, obviously it's only out of 2, not out of 10. But, you want to have a player of that kind of caliber. So, hopefully either Jarren Williams changes his mind or that report is proven false or something. But even this morning, like I said yesterday, Mark Richt said that he's not ready to make a comment about it on the Joe Rose show down here in South Florida. He went on this morning to talk about recruiting. And Joe Rose asked him about Jarren Williams, and he said that he has no comment at the current time, which continues that same kind of a thing. And as I said yesterday, every time that a situation like this has been breached or broached to Mark Richt, and he's denied it or said there is no comment or nothing at the time, that is eventually proven to be true. And I gave you the list. Amon Richards' career-ending injury. Was asked about that, said, no, he's just, we're still going through things, blah, 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 blah. That next day, or that very day, it came out that he had a career-ending injury. You're talking N'Kosi Perry's suspension. You're talking Gerald Willis's previous suspension in previous years. You're talking DJ Johnson transferring. You're talking about Jeff Thomas transferring. You're talking about any of these things that happened. Mark Richt will always say he's not ready to comment, or everything's fine, or I have no comment. And then invariably they've been proven true. So maybe this is the first time that is not the case, but, we'll see. So obviously, I want to have a player of Jarren Williams' caliber on the roster. It makes everybody better to have, better guys in a position group, because you need talented people on your team in case that something happens. But if he chooses to transfer, that's his decision in Providence, and that is problematic for Miami on the back end.
Want to remind everyone in the live chat that it's available right there for you in terms of what you're using for it right now. So I enjoy seeing the comments. You guys are having a good discussion on Miami football. It's all Miami football, so that's good to see in the live chat. It's also useful to provide comments and questions for Cam as our guest here. From
Why can I not see the chat?
You can't see the chat. You would need to have a separate device and scroll through the chat. It took me a while to figure that out as well.
I tried to open up the sidebar there, and it's not coming. It stinks.
So
I hope you guys are having fun over
there. Without being too critical here, folks, I want to point out that I would rather defer all my questions and comments for Cam and go straight to you. You are the people with a passion for Miami football. However, and I think some of you are wanting to ask questions or get a response from Cam, but when you write things like, Cam, why do you think it has been so difficult for Miami to get back to the U, being able to play top teams and hold their own? I think that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about from the top of the program right now, there appears to be an issue with the head coach, and then that is filtering down into all the decisions and the fallout. So please ask some good questions, and I'll pass those along. Boyo in Hamburg did ask about the new transfer rules and how those can be used to take advantage of a situation.
The new transfer rule. Oh, the rules where you could potentially get immediate eligibility
yes,
if the 4 or 5 criterion are met. Yeah, and I have my phone now, so I'm trying to look at the chat also, but I should probably stop that.
Well, if you see anything there, Cam.
No. I need to not do that, so we're going to turn that off. Cool. The new transfer rules can be good if you can get game-ready Miami caliber players to transfer and meet the criterion of being able to play right away. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but it's something like health and safety at the initial school. The player was in good academic standing. The player was in good behavioral standing. Something else, and the original school will not oppose said transfer. That was, the Shea Patterson to Michigan kind of thing, or Van Jefferson or Trevon Grimes to Florida. That was the rules through which they gained immediate eligibility. That can be great because all 3 of those players that I named, Shea Patterson, Van Grimes, and Trevon Trayvon Grimes, Van Jefferson, and Shea Patterson. That's the three. All three, and there are more, sure. But just even talking about those three, all three of those guys would have started at Miami this year. Full stop. So if you can get those guys in that kind of situation that they're leaving from, of that kind of caliber, of a Shea Patterson, of Trayvon Grimes, who wanted to come to Miami and we told him no, but I understand the point of principle that Mark Richt was on. I disagreed with it at the time, but I understand. And I said it at the time and afterwards. I disagreed. I understand where he's coming from, where Trayvon Grimes, who went to St. Thomas Aquinas, had his chance to come in to Miami, chose to go elsewhere. So, continue being elsewhere. Or Shea Patterson, a quarterback, or Van Jefferson, obviously, was a second-team All-SEC wide receiver. Sean Jefferson, former Atlanta Falcons wide receiver son. Any of those guys, sure. Or somebody of that kind of caliber or ilk, absolutely. So the thing on how to make that work is to have players trying to leave their schools that fit that circumstance and criterion. Because Asa Martin leaving from Auburn could, but probably won't fulfill those requirements. He left because, they mishandled his red shirt, which is not health or safety or anything like that. So the tier one or the number one criterion on the list of 5, and it's not, 2 of the 5 or 3 of the 5. You got to meet all 5. If he doesn't meet that first one, then we're not going to, come on in and redshirt and things like that. But, you have to kind of have lightning strike perfectly to get a player of Miami caliber who fills a need on the roster and who meets those criterion. So if that were to come to pass, great. But otherwise, then you're just stacking transfers in a normal way where they come in and sit out. So, could that be an answer? Yes. But then again, just like any debate that I've ever had of talking about all-star teams or all ACC or All-Americans, insert player here should have been there. Fine. Give me a name of who comes off. So in theory, this immediate eligibility transfer works. Who's the name and what school are they leaving and what's that situation? Like that matters. So again, in theory, yes. In practice, potentially, but we had to see about that.
So we've got, this came down seconds ago, Byron Lamb asking, are the rumors about trustees being upset with Blake James true?
I don't know.
We've got Thomas Towns. Cam, is there any insight into any additional coaches that will be added before 2019?
Mark Richt said that the additional coach hire is going to be on defense. And from a numbers standpoint, that works. If you're doing straight numbers, the offensive coaches are Mark Richt, even though he's the head coach. John Richt is 2. Thomas Brown is 3. He's the offensive coordinator. Ron Dukins is 4. Todd Hartley is 5, and Stacey Searles is 6. So that's the head coach and 5 assistants on that side of the ball. On defense currently, Jess Simpson, Pat Key, Banda, Rumpf. So you got 6 on offense and 4 on defense. From a straight number standpoint, it fits that you would have that additional coach on defense. And Mark Richt has come out and said, or John Patke, the co-defensive coordinator came out and said that they're probably Patke is now going to go from strikers position coach to linebackers position coach. And he played linebacker at Stephen F. Austin for 3 years, and he interned as an assistant linebackers coach before. So I trust him to coach that. But he said, Patke did, that Miami is looking to bring in a strikers coach, outside linebackers, kind of flex safeties, position coach. So that's where that's going to be. I don't have a name for you, but I trust everyone at their word at this time that that's where the hire is going to be.
So there are quality questions, and then there are sometimes questions that aren't necessarily quality, but I will still ask them out of respect for the many comments that you've made, but also may lead to a good discussion and a good response from Cam. So I think you may understand that. We see that all the time in news conferences of head coaches in which reporters ask stupid questions, but at least gets the topic out there.
Right.
So I'm going to liken this question. And again, I'm a stickler for this. I used to do this for a living, so I apologize if I'm too critical of the live chat audience here. But, this would be like me asking Cam, if Mark Richt had won the national championship last year, do you think this would be going on right now?
Yeah.
All of this stuff. So Slim Shady Canes is asking, question for Cam. If Miami has an 11 or 12 win season like they have the talent to do, could this class just be an anomaly and next year produce another top 10 class?
Hypothetically, yes. But this class being non-Miami caliber will still need to be overcome. So that means Miami will have to really over recruit. But then again, remember the SEC rule for over signing where, Alabama would sign 35 guys a year, but you can only bring in 25 a year. And then kind of just shake the tree. They would have 95 guys on scholarship, but the rule is 85. And then, they'd let it work out. You cannot do that anymore. So, I mean, if Miami were to rebound in 2019 and, have an, 11-1, 12-0 national championship type season, the 2020 next year's recruiting class would stand to reason that it would be better. But I don't necessarily know that there's enough numbers that would overcome this class immediately. There would still be a downtick, whether that's 2020 season, 21. There would still be this class is going to lead to some kind of negative on-field engagement. I don't know when that's going to be, but even with a national championship season on the horizon, I still foresee that wouldn't be like Alabama or Clemson, multiple time repeating. There would still be a valley there.
Yeah, the recruiting cycles have to cascade, and they have to be multiplied and stacked on top of each other. Byron Lamb is asking about the productivity of the defense, which is a difficult question, obviously, to answer based on the defensive coordinator position.
Well, not really, because
but in regards to personnel and so forth, just add it up and let us know.
They're going to run the same stuff. That's why they promoted Bonda and Pat Key to defensive coordinators. They're going to run the same stuff. Jess Simpson is a master defensive line coach. He's been proven to be a very good recruiter, developer of talent. Well, we'll see about the developer of talent because he did get a lot of ready-made guys this year in there, and they played very well for him, obviously. Gerald Willis, John Garvin, Pat Bethel did take a step forward. Joe Jackson, my favorite cyborg that I've been talking about for 5 years on here. They all played well. So we'll see about Jess Simpson going forward. But the scheme is going to stay the same. Bonda worked with Manny Diaz in a couple spots. Packey was a grad assistant, and he was at the same spots, with Diaz for years. And, Jonathan Packey, it was said, by Brandon Odoy from Football Hotbed that Packey is the brains of the defense. Packey, people were going to Packey for adjustments. Manny Diaz was saying, okay, Packey, what are we going to do? Packey was the one who came up with the striker position and said, this is what's going to take our defense to the next level. So, I mean, those guys know that defense, and they're going to continue to run the same thing. Now, do we have the bodies ready-made to plug in? That depends on who comes back. If Joe Jackson jumps to the league, John Garvin's only a sophomore, so he's not draft eligible. But, if anybody transfers, if Shaq Quarterman and or Mike Pinckney leave, then you got, a clear step down on talent and productivity at linebacker. But Miami's going to run a lot of the same things, and especially up front, I think that they're still going to get upfield and be disruptive and create havoc. So I think that the numbers are going to be maybe, similar. I'm not going to say the same. Even a 10%, 15% bump in yardage and points and things like that is similar. So don't say or don't quote me as saying, oh, Miami's going to be the same or better. I didn't say that. Now, one of our writers that State of the U did say that, and he gave you reasons why, so you can go read that. But I think it's going to be similar, and I think the productivity is going to maybe be on a similar level, although you might have some different names in there, obviously. And I don't necessarily think that there's going to be one player who's as individually impactful as Joe Willis III, but maybe if you get that production from 2 or 3 guys, that still creates problems for the opposing offense. So again, similar, not the same.
Got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. We've got 38 people on the live chat, which for roughly noon to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, based on my experience, is a pretty good showing. We typically have triple digits with Cam on the line talking Miami football in prime time. All right, Eduardo Izaguirre, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Is there any consideration or serious interest in going after Fields?
Oh, Justin Fields? Dude,
Oh, okay, we're talking about Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're talking about Justin Fields from Georgia.
Okay.
I
may not have passed that along had I made that connection.
Who's not going to kick the tires on Justin Fields? Who's not going to whose quarterback room would not be better for having a Justin Fields. Like, I mean, I think that Justin Fields should have been starting at Georgia, but he didn't start there. He would not start at Alabama. He would not have started at Oklahoma this year. Okay, so that's 3 teams out of the 130-ish in football bowl subdivision football. Name me another school where he doesn't start.
You think he would have started at Ohio State? Do you think he would have started at Penn State? And I'm not saying he's not physically better than Trace McSorley, but there's that leadership experience component.
I mean, Trace McSorley had a very, very bad cold spell in the middle of the year, so I think that he would have started there.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Okay, maybe not over Haskins. So, okay, 4 schools. Fine, I'll give you that. Name me the other school that he's not going to start at, that he would not have started at this year as a true freshman.
Well,
Clemson.
I guess Clemson would have been a heck of a competition.
Well, I mean, because Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were 1 and 1A in last year's recruiting class. So fine, okay, 6 schools. So now you're down to 120.
That's about it.
But you know what I'm saying? So 124 schools he would have started, including Miami. Yeah, I mean, Mark Richt coached in Georgia for years.
Maybe not.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, maybe not exactly. He's not mature enough. And maybe he wouldn't.
Married to Rocher,
oh my God, I didn't even see that coming. You blindsided me with that one. That was good. Yeah. So maybe he would not have started in Miami because obviously. But I mean, So I hope, my sincere hope, is that Miami at least calls or contacts and says, "Hey, are you interested at all?" I don't know that that's for a fact, but like, is there interest? I mean, he's a 5-star, one of the highest rated quarterbacks to come through the high school ranks in the last, 10, 12 years. Yeah, there's interest for that kind of a guy.
So you certainly don't want to see him. The 3 schools that are being bandied about are Oklahoma, Ohio State, Florida State.
He's not going to Florida State. I don't believe that for a second.
Okay. I would think Oklahoma would be the top choice.
Oklahoma is like a perfect fit. And I saw somebody on my timeline say that, and I got super mad and I cussed them out because I said, damn it, that's like, it's too perfect. Like it is. Even if he has to sit out a year, then he's Kyler Murray part 2, like literally for them. So you have somebody else start this year, and then in 2020, he takes over and does numbers because he's big and he's fast and can throw the ball a country mile, and he's actually a very, very good quarterback, which is why like Georgia only letting him throw the ball a handful of times in games. And Bud Elliott, he tweeted this out. He's like, like, how do you have a player of Justin Fields' caliber only throw the ball 30 times when you won games by 42, 48, 35, 28, 35, like these gigantic margins of victory? Like, dude, take Fromm out and give the kid, like, you brought him in for a reason. You want to try to have him here. But yeah, no, I mean, Oklahoma seems just like it's too much of the right answer. But yeah, I mean, if I were Miami, I would have already called. And I said it the moment that report came out. So as soon as he gets in that database for transfers, call him and see. And even if he turns you down, at least you asked.
If you're looking at status, brand, power, personnel, Ohio State, Oklahoma, about the same, but you add in Ohio State wants Ryan Day to become Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's proof of the concept. He's already proven himself as a head coach. Yes. Ryan Day's a fine play caller and quarterback developer, but obviously Lincoln Riley's already done that, and now he's proven himself back-to-back college football playoffs. So that would be the clear decision for me.
Right. I mean, like I said, Justin Fields to Oklahoma it's too perfect. It's like, it's too much like right. So anything other than that, I think would be an upset in that kind of situation. But, to the Miami-centric question, and I understand that, obviously, being a Miami Hurricanes alum and running a Miami Hurricanes blog website, yes, I would have interest, and I sincerely hope and desire that even if Justin Fields told them no, or tells whatever, but I hope that there's communication between the University of Miami Athletic Department and Justin Fields. And like I said, even if they tell them no, or even if they're told no, at least they endeavored to ask the question.
Byron Lamb with a nice question here. I love these kind of questions because the Scam knows, and I applaud him for many times, especially in the off season, is getting me primed and prepped with personnel breakdowns because I try to keep track of all of that. Byron's asking, in your opinion, who will make the biggest jump as a young player on offense and defense?
The biggest jump on offense, I think, is going to be Mark Pope, just because he'll have been in for a full year and some change and will really kind of be settled. And there were reports that Mark Pope didn't really know the playbook and maybe some of the finer points of playing wide receiver, although he is incredibly, incredibly talented. So I hope that knowledge and that maturity, if you will, using Mark Richt's word, will really allow him to step into the spotlight and be the kind of electric, dynamic playmaker that he was in high school and has the potential and athleticism to be in college. So that's my pick on offense. On defense, it's going to have to be, it has to be one of the defensive tackles. It has to be Nessa Silvera or Jonathan Ford. I don't know which one I want to pick. I lean towards Silvera because Silvera was kind of a higher caliber kid, but I could also lean towards Ford because Ford is going to be a third-year junior as opposed to a second-year sophomore for Silvera. But one of those guys, both of those guys really, because that's the top of the defensive tackle rotation along with Pat Bethel, really got to step up. Really, really do. And I know, okay, well, yeah, if John Ford's a third-year guy and you're like, he's a little bit too old to be a young guy stepping up. Dude, he has to, because he hasn't really done much in his first 2 years, and he has the size at defensive tackle that most guys don't on our roster. So it really has to be that. I mean, are there other candidates? Sure, it could be DJ Ivey. It could be Gilbert Frierson. It could be, Amari Carter. Amari Carter's another third-year guy, so it could be Gervin Hall. There's a lot of names with talent on defense, but for me, it has to be one of or both of those defensive tackles.
I shouldn't have to identify, but I will. So if you're joining us for a rare time or maybe the very first time, that's Cam Underwood from State of the U breaking down Miami football. So it's State of the U. That's the SB Nation platform for Miami athletics. Please join him and the rest of the crew right there as they break down Miami football. And again, if you're a Miami fan and you're just jumping into this right now, then you need to go back and check, of course, State of the U, but also the videos that we have here breaking down Miami football throughout the season, and then the recent fallout following the final game this particular season. So Fragrance Place is asking about offensive line. I'm looking at the list here. 3 offensive linemen signed in this class. They're the 3 lowest rated players according to 247 Sports. He's asking, and of course you've already broken these guys down, but I apologize if I missed any commentary into the speaking to the quality of the players, because he's wanting to know if we should be excited about any of these offensive line candidates.
I mean, you can be excited about them for the future. Sure. I mean, Ja'Kai Clark is a center. Like, centers aren't sexy. He's not even like a guard who moves over to center. But he's good at what he does, like, definitely. So, sure, he's a guy to be excited about. Adam El-Gamal, he's 6'5", 270. He's a basketball player, so he's light on his feet. He played right tackle in high school, so hopefully he stays on the right side in college. He can, he's more towards being physically ready than the other tackle, but he does have athleticism and potential. So sure, you can be excited for him, but again, 2 years down the line. Zion Nelson played pretty well, actually. He was a South Carolina All-Star. They had the Carolina Bowl, South Carolina versus North Carolina All-Star game, things like that. Especially on zone plays where you get him like moving and running. He's amazing because he's 6'5", 240. The thing about it is he's 240. Like, he's 3 years away, like 100%. And I wrote it in his recruit notebook. There's not a chance that Zion Nelson plays this year. There's probably not a low chance that he plays as a redshirt freshman, but maybe some rotational snaps just to get him on the field and like in the flow of what the speed of college football is. But yeah, you're looking at Zion Nelson for 3 years, 3, 4, 5, like way down the line. So, but he's a big kid. He has long arms. He's, very mobile. He's athletic. He has, good repeatable technique and things like that. He doesn't have any punch to him. He doesn't have any, strength really, because he's 240 and most of it's in his lower body. So, are there things to like about all of these guys? Yes. Are there things to like about any of these guys for 2019? No, this is not about now. This is about the future. So, do they have potential? Yes, but you're going to wait 2, 3, 4 years before you see it.
So, folks, I want you to soak up what you just heard, because it's just a little sample. So I do this on a regular basis, and we get typically, in breaking down a recruiting class, the size, the height, the location of where they're coming from, how highly ranked they are by the various services, and then maybe an analysis that speaks to what the need may be at that position because of who's leaving or who's staying. and then that's about it. We're looking at a recruiting guy and listening to a recruiting guy who understands projection, fit, all these things, has looked at the tape, has looked at the backstories of the players, has reviewed it, has been able to compare it to like stories in the past and how things have worked out or failed to work out, and knows the numbers in the game and all of it put together. So, Cam, always appreciated. So, Boyo in Hamburg is responding to a comment made apparently by DJ Dallas, where he said, quote, "Stars do not matter. We are looking for the dogs that want to be here at the U." And whether you agree with that statement, and I can almost anticipate this response.
No, stars matter. It's been proven. Like Bud Elliott from SB Nation coined the phrase the blue chip ratio. Teams that have more than 50% of their roster as 4- or 5-star recruits are the teams that have won the national championship. You need quality players to have a championship caliber team and season. Now, are there players who are underrated who can become better and outplay their performance? Or, sure. One of them for the Miami Hurricanes, Michael Pinckney, 3-star recruit. Sure, I didn't think he was going to necessarily be the guy who started of those 3 as a freshman, but he started and he did really well. RJ McIntosh, 3-star recruit. Sure, are there 3 stars that can be good? Yes. Are there going to be a lot of 3 stars to fill in the gaps of your roster? Yes. But stars matter. You need top caliber talent to have top caliber performance. And that's just a verifiable fact. And, you want guys to want to be at Miami. You want guys to, or at whatever school. But I mean, I'm a Miami alum, so I'm talking about Miami. But you want guys to be on your team. You want guys who want to be there, sure. But if they don't have the caliber or the quality, then it doesn't matter. Like if I wanted to be on the football team at Miami and I wanted to do that and everything, okay, and I'm doing my best to do that, but I don't have the quality of a top-tier football player, then I shouldn't be there. And you're not going to build your team and the foundation of your roster around me because I don't have the athletic ability or the football skill to do that. Now, I mean, hypothetically speaking, because like when I was younger, I was an amazing athlete. So y'all can all go to hell who's saying otherwise. But you get my point. If the guy doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. And these lower ranked players are usually lower ranked for a reason. The recruiting industry, for what all people say about it being, pay for play and, you buy your stars and things like that. I don't think that that's true. And I've been to enough recruiting camps and I've talked to and seen a lot of these recruiting guys that, I've met, from 247, from Rivals, from Scout, from ESPN. I've met all these guys. I've seen them at different places. I've been out there. And the industry gets a bad rap, but it really does a good job, especially by the end of a cycle. Like earlier on, you're going to have a lot of variance because, kids might still be learning some stuff or still growing into their body and the team or whatever. But by the time that signing day comes around or the end of the cycle, those ratings are really, really good and well done because you have so many data points. So I say all that to say, if a Jaden Hazelwood is the number 1 wide receiver in America after 4 years of being evaluated, dude, multiple people have seen that. And you need players like that. You need stars. Because you want a guy to take over a game. You want a Santana Moss. Okay, well, Santana Moss was a track guy. He went to Carroll City. They ran the wing T when he went to Carroll City. Yeah, but did he have that caliber, that quality? If Santana Moss played wide receiver right now in high school, he'd be a 5-star. Percy Harvin, 5-star. He's that kind of dude. So you got to have the talent. And if you're looking at the Miami Hurricanes and throughout this season, people are writing to me, people are commenting on all the stuff that we're writing and we're commenting on and saying, well, we don't have somebody to make a play. You know who makes a play? A better player. And where's the better player? How do you know? With a star ranking, because you can see it on the field. The last thing I'll say in this answer, you can see these players at the high school level, and it's clear. When I watched Duke Johnson in high school against Miami Northwestern, he was in fast forward. When I watched Calvin Ridley and Sean Burgess-Becker against Miramar, nobody knew about Ridley. And I worked at Miramar. I was the announcer. I'm on the microphone. I'm looking like I'm waiting for Burgess-Becker to make a play. And I'm looking at my roster and I'm talking to the coach saying, who's this number 8 Ridley kid? Because he popped off the field. It was crazy what he was doing as a high school junior before he had any kind of recruiting profile. So you can see these dudes, and that matters because you got to have the top talent. And again, if you are not out scheming people, if you're not doing things where they're running butt naked wide open, who's going to win a one-on-one isolation situation? 9 times out of 10, the better player. And you want to have that better player, which is why stars matter. So, I mean, do you want guys to be on your team who want to be there, who bleed orange and green or whatever your team's colors are? Yes. But eschewing the notion or saying the notion that stars don't matter it's asinine, it's stupid, it's counterfactual, and I simply don't agree with it. And DJ Dallas, for one, to say that, and I know DJ, I've talked to DJ a few couple times, but for DJ Dallas to say that he was a high 4-star rated player and Georgia and Alabama are coming after him and things like that, like, dude, like you could say that because you're one of those dudes where the stars were on your side. So it's easy for you to say that. I mean, I'm like 6 feet tall in shoes. It's easy for my friend Zach, who's 6'7", to say, "Oh, being tall doesn't matter." Yeah, Zach, are you sure? Because I'm looking up there to the clouds when I'm talking to you, bro. Like, I mean, pot kettle, bro. Like, come on, man, come on.
The last number I saw was over 1,400 players signed yesterday. So if we could go 5 years into the future and look at the careers of those 1,400 players that are anywhere from maybe a 1 or 2 star to a 5-star and evaluate their careers, I'm going to throw out a percentage that may be off by 5 or 10%, but it's roughly in the league of 10 or 15% of those players are going to dispel their star ranking either positively or negatively. Mm-hmm. Anyone who discounts this in mass, again, football is a game of attrition, mass of players. It's not good enough to go out and get 3 guys. You got to get 20 or 22 every year, something in that range. And if you went through the Miami classes, I'm sure, or your favorite team each and every year, you'd be like, wow, that guy was a high 4-star. What happened to him? And this guy was a 2-star. Wow. Yes, out of 20 or 22 per year, but the other 18, 19 fall into place. Take the top 25 rankings in college football at the end of the season for the past 10 years, and then take the recruiting rankings for the past 10 years and match them up. Your aberrations are Michigan State, Wisconsin, Stanford have been able to take top 35 and 40 classes and produce top 10 and 15 teams in the nation. Texas has been your aberration on the other side. That is soon correcting under Tom Herman, of course. They're the first team that comes to mind in regards to taking top 5 to 15 classes and not being able to win. Mm-hmm. Yes, over the course of football history or modern football history, I just looked this up. Yeah, Tony Romo, unrated. Victor Cruz, 2-star. Jordy Nelson, 2-star. Chris Johnson, 2-star. Alfred Morris, 2-star. Julius Thomas, unrated. Joe Staley, 2-star. Ryan Clady, 2-star. Josh, I don't even understand why he's in the article. Anyway, Alex Mack, who's a tremendous center in the NFL. DeMarcus Ware. J.J. Watt was a 2-star. And I can go on down the line. But we're talking about 1 or 2 examples at every position
nationally
over the course of 15 or 20 years.
Exactly. And especially in the J.J. Watt or the Khalil Mack, like those dudes grew like 4 inches and added 80 pounds of lean muscle and got faster. Like, I mean, like they're aliens, you know what I mean? Like literal aliens. Like that doesn't happen. You don't grow half a foot, gain like 100 pounds of 3% body fat weight, and get faster, more agile. Like all these things, like this perfect storm of stuff. So like I hate it when people say, "Oh well, J.J. Watt was a 2-star." Well, yeah, J.J. Watt played tight end at Central Michigan. Then he walked on at Wisconsin. Grew 4 inches, gained 95 pounds, and became like this force. Same thing with Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, who's from Fort Pierce Westwood down here in Florida. And everybody passed on him because he was a middle linebacker at like 6'1", 210 pounds. But he goes up to Buffalo, he grows to 6'4", he gets to 255 pounds, and he is faster than he was in high school. Like, what kind of alien is that? So, yeah, I mean, are there those real individual – I mean, and the fact about it is, and all those guys were recruits in different years. So you're talking about 18 individual cases across multiple years. So you're talking 4, 5, maybe a year. So do they exist in the wild? This, 2-star guy who develops into this, game-changing NFL defensive player in the year? Yeah, but are you going to base your recruiting class off of that? I mean, you can, but, the odds are more in the favor of you getting all these guys who can't play at all at the top level, I should say. And then you're stuck. So, yeah, stars matter. And I I mean, it's a proven fact. Stars matter. So I mean, you can debate amongst yourselves or go onto the internet or onto the website. I mean, hey, this is a great thing for the comment section. Like, go into the comment section on State of the U and say, stars don't matter. Prove me wrong. I already did. So you guys can yell at a wall if you want to, but you have to have talent to win. You're not going to have. I mean, yeah, you're not going to. There's no interaction that you don't want people who are the most talented or in your area. You're not going to build a team of IT geeks who don't know how to type. You're not going to build a choir of singers who don't know how to hold a note. You're not going to, take the relay swim team for people who don't know how to swim. You're not going to take people who are untalented in a given area and put them together and expect success in the specialized area. So stars matter. That's what I'm saying.
No question about that. No question about that. I was pulling up some years, and it's just, the collection of characters in the top 5 to 10 in the country and the recruiting rankings every year are the top 5 to 10 teams in the country. All right. Our boy Wholesome One, who is a huge fan of you, Cam. I don't know if you've ever connected with this guy, the Wholesome One, on YouTube, but he listens to you all the time.
I don't know that I have, but I appreciate your support, man.
I've had him on here a few times because he's got his own take on Miami football and does a nice job. But he consumes everything that comes out of your mouth. He is asking about Huff, the linebacker out of
St. Thomas
SBA, Stephen. Yeah.
What about him?
Aquinas. Thank you.
Yeah. What about him?
Just your evaluation, I guess. How does he look?
Okay. Yeah. Huff is awesome. Huff is amazing. I'm very, very, very happy to have him on my team now because he's officially signed. Avery Huff was at Hollywood MacArthur for 3 years, which is a school around the corner from where I used to work at Miramar. And he was putting on a show when he was over there. He was a dominant force on defense, transferred to St. Thomas Aquinas for his senior year, and continued to play well. But obviously his stats went down a little bit because you have, 4 and 5 star players at every level of the St. Thomas Aquinas defense. His teammate, Jason Munoz, was the defensive lineman. He signed to Miami also. 4-star Braylon Ingraham was going to come to Miami until Alabama decided that they wanted him. So he's going to Alabama. In the secondary, Jaden Davis is a 4-star who's going to Oklahoma. Jordan Battle is a 4-star safety going to Alabama now after flipping from Ohio State on yesterday. Anthony Solomon, his linebacking core mate, was committed to Miami, flipped to Michigan, another 4-star. So I named 4 4-star guys in addition to Huff on that defense. So yeah, you don't need to be the individual superstar playmaker at every single play because there's top tier college talent around you. But Avery Huff is 6'3", 200 pounds. He definitely has the frame to be 220, maybe even 230, and maintain his athleticism. Not the same as like these other guys that we talked about who, gained or, grew half a foot and gained 100 pounds. But he can fill out his frame a little bit, and he can run, he can hit, he can cover. Avery Huff basically can do it all. I already wrote a recruit notebook about him on State of the U, so you can look that up. If you can't find it, right in the green box, there's a thing for the signing day story stream. Click on that, and you can find it in there. But Avery Huff is a kid who's going to play, and he's going to play a lot here. He's going to be really good. So there were a couple college coaches, and I heard this personally and then also through other intermediaries that said that Avery Huff was the best linebacker in the state of Florida this year. And everybody was looking at Anthony Solomon. Everybody's looking at a couple other guys, Jeeman Efert from Deerfield Beach, who signed with Oregon. People were looking at other players as being, maybe the best linebacker. And like I said, I heard from a coach or two, and then a couple other people that I trusted who are around the recruiting game. They spoke to a couple coaches and said, Avery Huff is the best linebacker in Florida this year. And I don't understand why, whatever team, insert team here, is not trying to get him. Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, whatever team with a strong defense. So getting him to Miami is a big, big win. He's one of the few 4-star players in Miami's class. I think that Avery Huff is going to play as a freshman. I think it's probably going to be on special teams and as a rotation guy at linebacker, but it could even be a bigger role if Pinckney and Quarterman go to the league. So I am elated and very excited to have him on the roster and look forward to great things from him in the future. And for more about that, like I said, go on stateoftheu.com, click on the countdown to signing day story stream, and find the notebook that I already wrote on him. But yeah, I have a very high opinion of Avery Huff.
Unfortunately, the the reality of these live streams is that people jump on after an hour or so. So I encourage you to go back and look at the entire video
Right.
after it posts, because obviously we're at our highest traffic total of 54 at this point, but we're not going to go on forever. So depending on Cam's schedule here, I can go 10 or 15 more minutes. So we appreciate you stopping by and jumping on the live chat here. Let's see. What do we have? We've got a question about the linebacking prospect, Octavius Brothers, and your evaluation of him, Cam. And I'll keep talking until you have a chance to get yourself settled.
No, I'm back. So that was, sorry. There we go. Sorry. That was Octavius Brothers.
Yes.
Octavius Brothers is a new name on the board because of Anthony Solomon flipping to Michigan. So I honestly haven't looked too much into him. He got an offer just yesterday. There's another linebacker out of Virginia, last name Eugene, who also got an offer. So he's in the running for maybe that third linebacker spot. And Jonathan Patke, when he was giving his speech yesterday, or talking to the media, he said that Miami's looking at 3 defensive linemen, a linebacker, and then 3 defensive backs, which is 7, because 3 plus 1 plus 3 is 7. But then they're saying we want 8 more signees on defense. So I don't know where that extra player is going to come from, or if it's going to be just a best available. So maybe it could be Brothers. But like I said, I know that he has some skill and talent. He's a player that Miami has been evaluating for a while, and he was like at the top of the Plan B backup list, depending on if what's the name, if Solomon flipped, which he did. So I will have to look into Octavius Brothers a little bit more, but I know that he is on the list. He's a prospect that Miami is evaluating, and we'll probably try to bring in for an official visit in January.
I'm going to expand upon this question a little bit because I think I'm following the line of thinking here. Spread offense. Would you run a spread offense? What do you think about the offensive concepts that we're currently seeing? I'm kind of expounding again, and then there's an indiscernible follow-up question to that, but we'll go with the offensive approach.
I've been saying for years that Miami should be running a spread offense. I think that it would really revolutionize the game for the Hurricanes. Obviously, on defense, we're finally running what we need to run with a penetrating 4-3, one-gap system mostly. Obviously, there's still elements of a 3-4 in some passing situations, and there's some 2-gapping from the defensive linemen at times, but usually not. Like, hey, this one gap, get it and go, and we'll have the rest of the scheme to cover those other gaps behind you or next to you or whatever. But yeah, I think that Miami should be running a spread offense. I think that we should be getting the ball out quickly to our playmakers on offense. And there are always talented guys, even if they are, 3-star, like not necessarily superstar All-American kind of recruits that can impact games. And yeah, I think that should be updated. And I think that the base concepts, while they work in theory and have worked for 30 years, like Mark Richt famously said, I think they need updating. Honestly, I don't see a lot of things that are effectively attacking defenses. I don't see, first of all, there's no motion. There's no, shifting or anything pre-snap. And Miami's been notorious for that for years, which I don't necessarily think is, when you execute and you have a high yards per player, it's great, but that has not been the case recently. So we just kind of line up and let the defense sit there and then try to go, but then don't really do anything, because they know where we're going to be. And you can look at pattern matching and all these different kind of things for figuring out, okay, how is the defender always there, because you're not fooling them and you're not winning those one-on-ones. So I think that a lot of things could be integrated to the offensive scheme. I think that, I said for a year, or before last year, when Mark Richt brought in Mark Helfrich to consult, I said, you got to bring him in on staff. Let him be the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, play caller, and integrate scheme from, his time at Oregon, do things like that, utilize space. And even if you're not going to change, you're still going to run a pro set, which I don't like, and I don't think should be done. Miami does not take the space that's given to them. Like at the Russell Athletic Bowl against West Virginia a couple of years ago, I had to scream for them to throw a stop route, a little under route to Amon Richards, because, they're playing 8 yards off them. They're playing 10 yards off. Why are we not throwing them now? I don't, whatever you want to call it. But if the cornerback's heels are at 10, hut, get the ball, throw it to the receiver right now, and let him work. Because I trust my guy. Because we have this athletic talent, we have this football talent where we can win these one-on-ones, right? So give him the ball and let him win the one-on-ones. But we don't do that, even with space being given to us. And I think that a spread offense would create more space, which would be advantageous for Miami because we have the offensive skill talent to utilize that and really take advantage when there's space there. Jeff Thomas, I know he's not on the team anymore, but if he had space, even in a pro set, cue up the band, change the scoreboard. Brevin Jordan, he had space against Florida State on the, in the seam on that last touchdown throw. What happened? He's wide open, butt-ass naked, and he got the ball right there. Boom, touchdown when we win the game. I mean, like, if you utilize space, then, I mean, like, teams all across America scheme to try to get space, to try to get their playmakers in open space one-on-one situations. There are teams that are gifting Miami space because they know that Miami won't take it. And that's frustrating. So I don't know if it's a spread or if it's, changing the paradigm of what's being done. Spoiler alert, that's not going to happen. But something does need to change.
Folks, some of you asking questions alluding to topics we've already covered, Justin Fields in particular, so go back and watch the video once it posts. Mike Williams is asking about Greg Rousseau, whether he's a better fit at D-end or linebacker.
Defensive end, 100%. Like, he's already transitioned his body. He was playing really well, 9 sacks and 2 or 3 scrimmages in the spring. And he's 6'7", dude. Like, he's not going to play linebacker. Like, I mean, not here where we run a 4-3. Now, if he went somewhere where it was like a 3-4 edge kind of stand-up dude, I could get it. But we don't run that kind of offense. So put his hand in the dirt. And he showcased very good skill and talent in doing that and being a 4-3 rush end. So, yeah, no, I think that that is exactly where he should fit and continue to develop there.
Anything about Stacy Searles being let go from B-Ray to man?
No, because Mark Richt said that they're going to just try to be better at what they do and, just be consistent moving forward on offense, and that the hire is going to be on the defensive side. Because, obviously, like I said, there's 6 coaches on offense and 4 on defense. So, even including Mark Richt in that. So 5 assistants on offense, 4 assistants on defense. But when the head coach is on offense, that counts. So, no, they're going to hire a guy on defense, and that's pretty much going to be it. So Stacy Searles is going to be there. Enjoy.
The Wholesome One, the U family, asking about the switch to the 4-2-5 and your opinion of the change.
I think that, obviously we still run 4-3 a lot, but depending on what the offense presents us with, then we have that striker position, which is linebacker safety hybrid. So you can call it a 4-3 or a 4-2-5 flex, whatever you want to call it. But I think that Miami did it really well. I think that Romeo Finley, got most improved player on the team this year, the Miami Hurricanes Awards, and he was a revelation in that position this year. Derek Smith, he's built perfectly for that same position, and he was the backup to Finley there. He was listed as a co-starter at the beginning of the year, but it was proven very quickly that no, Romeo Finley needs to be the starting striker. So, I mean, I think when we go to that alignment of a 4-2-5, if you want to call the striker a safety, and so that is one of the defensive backs there, I think that it was wildly successful. I think that we have the personnel for it, and I think that that is a good weapon for the defense to have because of the personnel doing it and playing very well. So it can be not just a thing that Miami has to fall into sometimes, but it's a thing that Miami can do and really put the pressure on the opposing offense. So moving to the 4-2-5 or whatever that you want to call it with the striker out there on the field, I think that's awesome. I think it was really great, and I know it was lost a little bit because Miami did lose games even when not really giving up many points because the offense really struggled. But I think that was a really strong move, and I really look forward to that being maintained moving forward.
Darian the Goat asking about Kate Weldon. Again, we have covered that topic. We've got about 75 minutes logged at this point, so please check out the entire video. It will just take a few minutes to post once we are done. Cam, I'm going to leave you with the canvas if there's anything else you'd like to address. Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, the only thing that I want to say about recruiting is that it's not good enough. And there are major problems, and this has been proven over the course of time. And I know that Mark Richt and everybody, of course, wants to be optimistic. And when you're a coach on staff, you have to kind of have that demeanor of, the sky is not falling or things like that. And I'm not saying that the sky is falling, but there's some cracks, bro. Like things need to be different. And they simply do. The way in which the staff recruits, who they recruit, how they go after the interactions and things like that. It just has to change. And I'm tired of hearing about, well, we were close, or well, this year we were second for everybody. And like every player who like listed, they're like, oh yeah, like Miami was like second, like they're nice. I got along with the coaches and everything. Like it was cool, like South Beach, yeah, we stayed over at the Sonesta Hotel, or whatever. We went out the Rusty Pelican on the bay, and like it was cool. But like, no, I'm gonna go somewhere else. And I mean, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, and I'm sick of that. And like that has to start from the ground up. And it really is the top level, because like I said previously, for anybody who was here, or if you're just joining, the next year's recruiting class in any year for the last 8 years has been really good for Miami, like top ranked, number one in America. But then when that class becomes seniors, and that is the focus of recruiting, then players defect from that class and things change and it goes in a negative direction. I don't know if, there's multiple things. Like Miami has to reconsider how they're offering kids, because I know that they wanted to offer less kids to increase the value of a Miami offer by making it, by like imposing like forced scarcity. Like I'm going to withhold like offers to kids who could play at Miami, but I'm not going to give them an offer so that it's artificially inflating what that means. But then you're really engendering hatred, like you're engendering spite with a lot of players. So there's that. Timing of things, there's that. Understanding the game of recruiting is something that in large part eludes the staff. And year after year, you say, okay, we're going to offer less kids because we don't want Miami to, or kids to get a Miami offer and then pimp us, like leverage that offer for the place they really want to be. Well, guess what? That's still happening. And the only thing is, it's happening by the blue chip kids, 4-star and 5-star kids. But now you have not offered any other kids. So when those top level kids pimp you, they play you, they leverage your offer to go where they want to go. Now you don't even have a fallback plan. Because like Michael Johnson Jr. at quarterback, some people reported that he wanted to commit, and John Rick told him no, which is just, that's a fireable offense right there. Like that's one where like you call him in the office and you send him home. If his last name is anything other than Rick, then I understand why not. But if you do that, fine. But who's your fallback? Who's the other quarterback that you had visit? Who's the other quarterback that you extended an offer to? And those players simply don't exist. So, there are a lot of issues with the recruiting. And I know that a 7-5 season is bad. I know that is something where you want to do better, and that on-field result has a negative impact in recruiting. Florida State went 5-7, and they have the number 14 recruiting class in America. There's other teams that have worse seasons and are recruiting better. So you cannot tell me that it's a one-to-one correlation of on-field result and recruiting result. So you have to scheme differently in recruiting. The interaction has to be different. The whole paradigm has to change so that you're closing on these kids. And I hate to say it, but Jaden Hazelwood going to Oklahoma. Every person with the crystal ball prediction on 247 Sports is flipping it to Oklahoma. I went and I looked earlier and I saw it, and before we came on, I said, "Oh my God!" And Mark on the microphone, he was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I just looked something up." That was what I looked up. And I didn't tell him because I wanted to save that. But like those are things. Tyreek Stevenson probably going to Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, and then you've missed out on everybody, and you have no kind of fallback plans. And this is not a great necessarily recruiting class nationally. Like, you really do need to get guys in this class from the top, because if you don't get them from the top, there's a precipitous drop to the middle and bottom of this class. But now the University of Miami Hurricanes are dredging the bottom of the barrel for numbers in this class. Like, that just speaks to the lack of a plan. And we've seen that over and over. And I said it about quarterback recruiting. I wrote that. I wrote it about defensive line recruiting last year when Kuligowski was here before he went to Alabama. At defensive line, there seems to be a plan. No, we haven't gotten everybody, but there seems to be a plan there. Linebacker seems to be a plan. Defensive back seems to be a plan, even though defensive back is actually probably a little bit bad this year in the execution thereof. Offensive line is atrocious. Wide receiver, yeah, you had Amon Richards with an injury and Jeff Thomas defecting or leaving the team. But then you go from needing 1 to needing 3, but then you have no plan in place for that. You have guys locally who could play here, like a John Dunmore, who probably would not have been a superstar, but he could be a solid college wide receiver. And he wanted an offer early. He said, yo, like, y'all should offer me. Like, you should recruit me pretty openly. And Miami was like, no. Why? Like, what sense does that make? And these are the systemic issues that I was referencing earlier. And these are the things that have to change, because you cannot, I mean, like, winning is big. Winning is big. You do need to win. But there are relationships to be built, and there's things to do, and there's moves to make other than winning that affect recruiting. And Miami's not doing that. And I'm going to tweet it out, and I really honestly mean that. And I mean, I might even like send it over or try like through somebody, but like, dude, I wrote this feature in last year and I posted it in August, and it's still up on the front page of the website, the recruiting rules, the things that you should do every single year to build a championship roster. There are 9 recruiting rules, and I'm not going to list them to you because I want you to go read it. But I honestly and truly believe that the University of Miami is not following any of these things. So if you're not following any of these things, what are you doing? You're talking about, oh, win Broward, come to the U. Dude, I can list the guys from Broward that you're missing. You wouldn't even say win Dade because you're not even close to that. But like, I don't know. There are answers to be had. And like I said, I wrote this feature called The Recruiting Rules. I think that those 9 steps, those 9 rules are things to follow. That is a really great place to start. And you know, you also have to leverage the knowledge of local people, because there's, you know, there are a lot of us down here who know these kids, who've seen these kids, who have an idea of what is going on. And, you know, I get the hubris of, no, we're going to do our own things. We're not going to talk to outside people. We're going to do our own evaluations and build our own relationships, and we don't need anybody. You don't need anybody. True. I'm not going to debate you. But by not needing anybody and not listening to anybody outside of the building, and even in the building, because I believe that there are some people in the building who are saying things like this, and they're not being listened to. I cannot confirm that. I don't know that. I haven't spoken to anybody. That's just my gut feeling, that there are people who work for the University of Miami who are saying things like this, and they're being blatantly ignored. So then what are you doing? What you're doing is you're seeing a negative result in recruiting. So you don't need anybody. You don't need to listen to anybody. You don't need to do anything different. You don't. But when you don't listen to anybody, you don't lean on any relationships, you don't do anything different, this is what you get. And this, like I said previously, is going to bear itself out in losses coming forward, because Miami does not have the same kind of talent, and they were relying on talent for years to be successful. And now that talent is being deteriorated off of the roster, and especially if other guys transfer, if other guys leave, God, you know, forbid anybody gets injured. Now you're going to have to put up these guys who aren't necessarily 100% Miami caliber, or you're going to have to find something else, because these guys don't exist, because Miami's only signed 13 guys with a punter coming and a defensive end who might not come now because of supposed or alleged reported grade issues potentially. So now you don't even have the numbers of non-Miami caliber guys to plug in. So now what are you going to do? You're going to be like Maryland a few years ago when all their quarterbacks tore their knees up and they put that linebacker in quarterback because he played it as a sophomore in high school and said, well, good luck. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not. When I can make a peer level comparison about Maryland football. Yesterday, I made a peer level comparison about Minnesota football to the University of Miami Hurricanes. That is not good enough. And this is the existence that we're living. And a friend of mine said yesterday, if you're running a website or creating content, you want one of 2 things: to be really good or really bad. And for the first 3 years that I ran State of the U, or was a major contributing factor to State of the U, we were really bad. Last year, we were really good. And damn it, right now, if we're not really bad, then I don't know what really bad is. But an average 7-5 season that could have been better, but reasonably could have been worse. And a recruiting class in the 30s around Duke and Vanderbilt and Minnesota is where we are. That's not good enough. And I know I went on a diatribe, but trust, I got plenty more. Check in with State of the U, because I'm going to have to go. It's going to be blackout season for me. I'm just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's not negative. It's factual. It's pragmatic, because things need to be better, and I have a way for them to be better. But Miami's clearly not doing that. So the only way that things can improve from here is blind faith. And I trust in the Lord, but I don't trust in Mark Richt. So I don't got that blind faith. So I don't think that things are going to change.
If you're on listening to Miami football and recruiting talk at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, then you must be committed to Miami football, and why you wouldn't go to State of the U and do exactly what Cam is talking about and checking out those articles, those materials, and just locking in right there, making it one of your favorites. I don't know why that wouldn't be a choice of yours. And also to subscribe right here. There's a couple things that I want to respond to that you either hit on precisely, or I've made connections to some things that you've said in the past, Cam.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was at one point, we all know, if you have any connection to college football, watch it at all, listen to it at all. I'm not a recruiting guy, but I know where the talent is and I know what the numbers are. And since I've been doing this in a very concentrated way for 5 to 6 years, I talk to guys like you all the time. Therefore, by extension, I know about the recruiting game and I know the numbers and I know who's doing well and not so well. And this is not Nebraska, Oregon, Wisconsin, where they've got to travel thousands of miles. They can get a linebacker here, a guard here from their backyard, but then they have to go, as you have stated, and I already knew it, but there was a conversation we had a couple years ago that you brought numbers to the game that were just astounding, even blew me away, to emphasize what little you need to do to just walk out your back door where Miami's located, Coral Gables, to find top-notch. Like, you don't have enough scholarships to give all the 4 stars.
I mean, barely. Like, I mean, in South Florida, that's Palm Beach County, which is a little bit up the road from me, Broward County, where I live, and Dade County. There are 19 4- and 5-star players this year alone. That's not even going into anywhere else. I mean, and that's not even talking about these 3 stars, these solid players who don't have, the star ranking, like a Samuel Brooks, who led Dade County as a junior in sacks with 16 and a half, and he tore his knee up before the playoffs, and he missed the last 5 games of the year. And he led Dade County, Miami-Dade, where you get all these players. He led Dade County in sacks and didn't even play 5 games. But he's a 3-star recruit coming back off of that, playing for the 2-time now state champion Miami Northwestern. He's a Miami caliber kid. He's like a Sean Spence who, was a 3-star player. He goes there. So, yeah, I mean, there's more dudes down here that you can shake a stick at. And even a lot of 3 stars down here, like, will play and play well. And a lot of Isaiah McKenzie from American Heritage, Joystick McKenzie, who went to Georgia, he was a 3-star recruit. He's in the league now, returning punts for touchdowns all the time. He was a dynamic playmaker for Georgia. He was a 3-star recruit, mainly because he was 5'7", 5'8". But still, that's my point. So even the guys who are a half step below your Pat Surtain, Tyson Campbell, Teddy Bridgewater, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, those top tier, even if you take a half step down, those are really, really good players. And a lot of them are going to make it to the league. And those are, I'm not going to give you my address, but I live a probably 8 to 10 minute drive away from Cardinal Gibbons High School. Chris Bogle, 4-star All-American, goes to school there. I live maybe a few minute drive from Northeast High School. That's where Stacy Coley went, who, when I saw him as a sophomore in high school, I thought he was going to be the number 1 player in all of America. I mean, I live in Northeast Fort Lauderdale. I live not too far away from Fort Lauderdale High School. Like I said, Caleb Boateng, 3-star guy, wanted to come to Miami, begged for an offer, didn't get an offer. Where's he going on signing day? Clemson. There are so many guys around here in South Florida, and this is just in my local area that I gave you 3 schools, and you're thinking Fort Lauderdale High School, nobody from Fort Lauderdale High School is really worth a damn in recruiting circles. He went to Clemson. Stacy Coley, everybody's freshman All-American. Chris Bogle, 4-star All-American, might come to Miami, might go to Alabama. Who knows now? But I'm probably a 15, 20-minute ride away from St. Thomas Aquinas. Everybody knows St. Thomas Aquinas. There's so many dudes down here, and you have to lock down a reasonable proportion thereof, but Miami's not doing that. So cool.
And you said 19 4-stars in the county.
4 and 5 stars in the Tri-County area.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you get a third of them, because you can't get everybody.
Right.
You get a third of them. You've built the base of your class. You got 6 or 7 stud guys, and then obviously the entire nation's open up to you and the rest of the state. So, it's just unfathomable to me that I list schools like Nebraska, Oregon, Minnesota this year, ranking in the mid 30s, where they can only get a handful of guys in their backyard. Then they've got to travel distances to Texas, to California, to the South, and make these monumental efforts, and they get it done.
Yeah.
My next, I'm making a bit of a leap here, and you may be able to, but I think this is where you were leading the assumption or logical conclusion that if Miami continues, so if anything happens once, I discard it, I lock it away, but I don't make an assumption based on something occurring once. But if this is happening time after time again, that early in the recruiting process that Miami is bringing in a projected number one class that turns out not to be anything close to a number one class, what that's telling me is that kids are enamored with the location, they're enamored with the tradition, they're enamored with the name brand of Miami and everything that brings to mind, that stirs up the emotion and the attachment of them liking the thought of, I want to go to Miami and play football. But then once they get into the process and hear from other schools and see what's offered at other schools and compare that to the current reality at Miami, that's when they run elsewhere. And that's obviously a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it is nice enough to have a kid commit early and things like that. But that has not been followed through for quite a couple of years. And that's where things need to change, because as an underclassman, you're dealing with recruiting in theory. When you become an upperclassman, you deal with it in practical, applicable reality. And that is just problematic. Like, I get the, like, building relationships and making them feel good and having the junior days and the pool parties and the barbecues and the camps and things like that. But I mean, when the rubber meets the road, these kids are going other places. And these kids who were committed here for a long time, and very talented guys too, like, and that's where the issues really come. When you have guys who are developmental players, like a Demarius Good from Altamont Springs, Lake Brantley. He played running back / wing T quarterback in high school, and Miami wanted to bring him down to play defensive back. And he said, okay, cool. And then he really decided, I want to play offense in college, and maybe I'll go somewhere else and do that. Okay, like you would have been a developmental guy anyway. But when you have these top tier guys, and there are plenty of them who have been committed, or and the thing that Mark Rick loves to talk about every year is these silent commits. Silence does nobody any favors. And I've been saying it on the timeline. JP, if you follow me, you know what I'm talking about. He's been saying it for years. Like, everybody's silent commits announce publicly, except for Miami's. And that's just part and parcel of the problem. Like, everybody wants to, be secret. I mean, like, I've said for a long time that, recruiting is like dating and things like that, but Miami's a side chick. Miami's that girl, like, yo, like, it's cool when we're together. And I mean, I should not have said that, but yeah, you're the person that you don't want to be seen with in public. You know what I mean? Like, we can hang out, like, I can come over at night, we can do whatever we're going to do, and I'm going to leave. And then, like, you pop up with, the person that you desire to actually be with, because you're just biding your time for that. That's what Miami is. Miami's a placeholder. Miami's a secondary option for a lot of these kids, but the staff is treating them as a primary option and thinking like everything is good, and not understanding the game or listening to people saying like, hey, Jarvis Brownlee from Carroll City was a lifelong Florida State fan. Like, yeah, he committed to Miami because Miami was one of his biggest offers at the time. But if Florida State comes around, his fandom, like, his family are Florida State fans. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to go to Florida State given the option. And then, no, he's going to be here. He's telling us all the right things. Look, we done said what it is. I can tell you for a fact that this kid is a Florida State fan his entire life. If he has that opportunity, he's going to go there. Nah. What happens? He decommits, gets an offer from Florida State. Yesterday, Jarvis Brownlee signs with Florida State. And we've said that, and people knew that, but they don't want to listen. So there's a lot. But yeah, getting to the top level, like senior year recruiting, and making these, or building the relationships and setting the parameters for these kids to follow through is a major, major flaw for the staff of the recruiting. So yeah, things need to, and again, that can happen with a losing season, because if I go Alabama football, what was the No, it wasn't 2000. Hold on. It was the
The 3-8 Alabama season.
with the awesome recruiting class. 2007, Nick
Oh yeah,
Saban's first season. Yeah,
sure.
the 2007 season was terrible, but that recruiting class in 2008 incoming was awesome, dude. That didn't happen for no reason. That didn't happen by happenstance. That happened because these guys worked. You know what I mean? Like in 2000, and I just pulled it up. National ranked third, SEC ranked 1. That's the Julio Jones year. Tyler Love was offensive tackle 5-star. B.J. Scott, Jarrell Harris, Mark Barron, Courtney Upshaw, Mark Ingram, Alonzo Lawrence, Barrett Jones, and the list goes on. In Marcel Darius in that year, coming off of that. So again, don't talk to me about a direct correlation to on-field results in recruiting when Alabama had an abjectly terrible season in 2007 and got the #1 class in the SEC, #3 overall in 2008, and that set the foundation for what we see now. So with a program in a better spot on the field than that 2007 Alabama season, it stands to reason that Miami should be able to recruit better. But they're not, and that's the problem. So yeah, no, like getting back to your original question, there are things that need to change because you cannot sit here and say that wins and losses are the only thing. Now, recruiting rule number 9, I will tell you, is win. So recruiting rule number 1, quarterback of the year. Recruiting rule number 9 is win. So I'm not sitting here discounting on-field results. I will not say that like on-field results don't matter. But there's so much more that matters, and Miami is not leveraging any of that appropriately or effectively. So yeah, getting to the top level when kids are seniors, things need to change, and they need to change in a big, big way.
So just to clarify something, because somebody's going to call me out on this, and I've got a steel trap when it comes to college football statistics and other things in life. Alabama went 3-8 in like 2004, 2005. That first Nick Saban team needed a last-second win against Colorado in the Independence Bowl to go 7-6. So they were basically where Miami is right now, or behind them, and then they were able to bust their tails. And Nick Saban, of course, Nick Saban, who won a national championship at LSU.
And then, as I'm looking on Wikipedia, they had 5 games vacated, which is why I said 2 wins. But yeah, no, they did win 7 games. They won 7 games that they played, and eventually the NCAA went back and vacated some. But yes, no, you're correct, 7-6. But still, Miami's 7-5 right now. So let's lose the bowl game, and then we can get the #3 class in America. I mean, if we're going on a direct correlation, right, guys? No. Oh, so there's other things that matter. That's what I'm saying. The process of recruiting has to be different.
As you mentioned, Florida State 5-7, and it was an ugly 5-7, #14 recruiting class as it stands right now. You used another term, Cam, and this is the last thing I need to say. As a recruiter, I don't even want to say partially, you're in a large extent a salesperson. You're selling a product. Okay, so if I became a salesperson, if somebody gave me a sales job tomorrow, I could get into living rooms. I can present a product. I can learn the product or service. I can present it. I can talk. I'm comfortable. I'm confident to talk and have a nice conversation with somebody and present the product capably. I can't close. I don't know the psychology of it. I don't understand it as I stand. I would need to learn that. I wouldn't sell anything. I'd have a lot of people possibly have nice connections with and talk to them and have nice conversations, but I could not close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that skill.
I mean, neither does Mark Richt, apparently. I mean, I hear you. Like, yeah, I mean, different people are good at different things, and the Miami Hurricanes, I mean, the coaching staff is just not good at closing. And I mean, yeah, last year was good. The year before that, yeah, but I mean, there were still chinks in the armor of the process and everything. And I said that like at the time, last year, 2018 recruiting class, Miami went like all in on that, with like at the exclusion of other classes and things. Sorry, hold on one second. Sorry, I was coughing. But yeah, that was a primary focus and things like that. So yeah, you go all in, but then even then, you're not really pushing as hard as you can for guys and leveraging your on-field success, because Miami was 10-0 and #2 in America. So you would think that Miami is leveraging that. But Miami said, no, we're not going to even really push for guys because we're trying to make this college football playoff, and we're going to really leverage everything after the season. Then you lose to Pitt, you get blown out by Clemson in the ACC championship game. Then you try to recruit a little bit before the signing period and everything cool. Then you lose to Wisconsin, and then going into the national signing day, like all that goodwill, all that, you know, that success that we're talking about, that, you know, people are saying that there's a direct correlation between wins and losses in recruiting. You had an opportunity, a window to use that. And okay, you used it when you brought Jaron Williams in for the Notre Dame game, got him to flip from Kentucky. Cool. But outside of that, that was really the only tangible use of this great season that Miami was engaged in. Dude, that's not good enough. It's just not. And yeah, I mean, like I said, Miami had the opportunity to do that and things, but yeah, I don't think that you know, the closing is obviously a problem, and I don't want to hear again, well, we pushed as hard as we could for the, you know, some guys, and they chose to go elsewhere, and I mean, yeah, then you're like, you know, like you're saying about yourself, you're just a salesman who doesn't know how to close, and yeah, you're trying some stuff. Like, I think this would work for me, so I'm going to try it, and it doesn't work because you don't have that skill set. And I think that that's a schematic thing. I think that that's a systemic thing, and you know, I think that it's something that definitely has to change, because the talent acquisition process, i.e., recruiting, because you have to acquire your talent in football. You're not drafting them. You're not paying them. Well, some people might be paying them, but that's a discussion for another day. But you are recruiting them to your school, and you have to do that well. And Miami's not, plain and simple.
Cam Underwood, you hear the unique perspective, the knowledge, the insight from a number of angles in the recruiting game and the football production on the field, and everything that goes along with covering college football at the University of Miami. So join him on State of the U. Cam, I appreciate you taking so much time to answer questions and respond to this situation.
Yeah, man, no problem. It was, you know, I said that I wanted to do it, and you know, like I said, I'm at home with no vehicle or anything, and wait for my friends to come over a little bit later. So, hey, why not get on the internet with some internet friends and talk about some things? So, it was a good diversion for me right now and everything. And you know, I know that, I hope that people got some value out of you know, our discussion and everything. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, we're always on State of the U. It's 24/7, 365. We have great content going up all the time, every day, about baseball, basketball, football. We're even trying to really cover women's basketball, because women's basketball is the only ranked team right now, and just giving them their honor and due, because women's basketball at University of Miami has been pretty good. So we're trying to cover as much as we can and do it authentically for you guys. So, you know, please keep checking it out. And, you know, until next time, we'll see you guys later.
We have 62 folks on the line. This never fails. We are 100 minutes into this conversation plus, and this is the most people that we've had on the line. This is what happens. So what you need to do, folks, is this is going to be posted very soon. It just has to process by YouTube. Within 10 to 15 minutes, it is posted. Watch this, certainly soak it in, and then you can respond with comments that we can get back to Cam at a later date. Cam, I appreciate it. I need to talk to you for just a second afterwards. And everybody else, thanks for joining the live chat, and a great response for a Thursday afternoon, and we will see you soon.
All right, take care, guys.